Hello, welcome to Fallawsophy. I'm your host, Jennifer Fallaw-Doering, and this today is the 20th of January, 2022, and I am starting to do my show again. So I want to thank everybody for showing up. Um, you know, um, my philosophy is to believe in infinite possibilities, and within that spectrum, um, I do really try to teach people to break out of the old norms and to move forward in a positive direction. And for those of you who don't know what I do, um, I talk to God and I talk to Jesus and I pray and I talk to Archangel Michael and Archangel Gabriel. And over the years, um, started with a personal need, I've learned to listen. And so I listen. I ask questions. I do what I call interdimensional meditation. Is basically a deep form of prayer where you sit and project your consciousness to heaven and sit with God and Jesus and the angels, and you talk to them and ask them questions. And that's what I do. Um, and so I do that for people. And for over the years, I've done it for thousands of people to help them on a personal level to move forward, to give them the answers that can't necessarily be found. Um, and recently, over the last year and a half, I've been doing another show, which you can find on Rumble. It's called Real News Live. I do it 2 to 3 times a week. And we've been talking about um, national issues, world issues, if you know what I mean. And doing my best to give people information along the way to help them cope with what's going on. So my place in all of this has always been on a personal level with people, and that has turned into world predictions to help people move forward and to keep going and to cope and all that. But it's always my angle on everything is always the spiritual level. It's always your connection with God and how to nurture that personal connection, that personal relationship to receive your own answers and to receive your own guidance. And it's not hard. You just have to learn to listen. Um, so today, our topic is lead by example. And that's a hard one. That is really a hard one. We're going to talk about that. And then last night, what I've been doing lately, because I've been so slammed with healings and readings and shows and things like that. So in my prayers at night, I've been going to sit with God. You should visualize you sitting with God, and he'll show himself to you any way you think that he looks, and talk and ask questions. And it's wonderful. And so that's where I've got my information for today. I don't have a whole lot, but I have some interesting things to share. Lead by example is a lot of us have been blessed to have inside knowledge about what's coming and what's going on. There are many who don't. Those who do soon will have the opportunity to step into that position and that opportunity to lead by example. And what I mean by that is parents know it's very important to lead by example. You can't just tell somebody something. I mean, I remember my daughter Faith when she was, real little, probably 3 years old. And I put, even younger than that, it was a vaporizer. It was a Vicks vaporizer. And it had steam that came out. And I said, no, don't touch that. That's hot. That's going to hurt. Don't touch that. And over and over again, don't touch that. Don't touch that. So as soon as I walk out of the room, what does she do? Whoop, touched it. Burned a little finger. And I had to explain to her at the time, listen, you got to sometimes, you can't find everything out for yourself. You got to listen to mommy because, there's some things I know that you don't. And I don't have a burnt finger right now, but you do. Okay. But it is human nature to find things out for yourself. And people will do that. And we're coming up on a time when a lot of us went to find out things for ourselves a while back. Some people didn't want to know or didn't have any idea that things weren't what they've been told. Pretty soon people are going to find out for themselves. I want to talk about today how we handle that when they do. Saying I told you so never accomplishes anything. Because as soon as something happens that you told somebody and they denied, it's over. It's unspoken. And then it really is a measure of who you are, the way you react when that person comes back to you to talk about it. Are you rejecting them in that moment by saying, I told you so? Is this all about you? Was it all about you when you told them in the beginning? No. Was it all about, look how smart I am, I know this and that, and you don't? No. So when they come back to you, this is the time that you lead by example. I mean, you don't really need to address what has gone before. And in that time when they're panicked and they run to you, every parent knows that when something goes on and everybody's panicked, oh my God, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? What are we going to do? And if you're panicking, it's even worse. Everybody falls apart. There's always that one person who has to be the pillar of strength, who has to stand strong in their faith. And especially now, to have control over your thoughts, and over your reactions. So long ago, a lot of us have stepped into a role of being blessed with wisdom. And so when someone comes to you, it's the next level in the game. It's the next step in the journey to be wisdom and control and peace and to spread that. I remember, and a lot of you who followed me for a while know this story, but it's a good one. I remember a long time ago, backstory, my husband was killed by a drunk driver in 2007 when my children were 4 and 7 years old and left me to raise them by myself. And that was a big one. Out of the blue, just talked to him on the phone, bam, gone. And I remember the second day, my 7-year-old Faith, she looked up at me and said, with the most desperation I've ever seen, Mommy, what are we going to do now? And I remember that 2 seconds before I responded was the longest of my life. I was like, well, I could really just take a dive and go to bed and let my parents raise these kids. And then I was like, and I looked at my baby and I said, oh, hell no, not on my watch. And I looked down at that kid and I said, we're going to keep our chin up and keep moving forward. And Mommy's going to make everything okay. And in this moment, God is the one we're looking up at. God is the one who's going to make everything okay. And she believed me. And she trusted that. Because I was in a position in that moment. And I was her everything. Why wouldn't she believe me? And the problem here is that I had to act in a way and move forward so that she continued to believe that everything was okay. I had to do things. I had to make sure. Cry in my room when they're not looking, work things out together. But in this moment, when you are put into the position of being that person standing there looking down at your family or your children or your friends or those that rejected you before and said, and say everything's going to be okay, you have to act like everything's going to be okay. And you have to stand stronger in your faith than anybody else. That starts with controlling your thoughts. So I have witnessed a lot of people waiting and waiting and waiting for something to happen. But then when something doesn't happen, they panic. Oh my God, the sky is falling. Nothing's ever going to happen. Everything's going to go to crap. And nothing, you can't do that anymore. You can't do that anymore. Because we're coming up to a time when things are going to get serious and we're actually going to see things happen, okay? And people are going to panic and they're going to be like, oh my God. And you're going to say, no, sit down. Remember when I told you this or that? Okay, everything's going to be okay, first and foremost. And I'm like that with the kids. They come running to me all panic. Oh my God, this happened. I'm like, first tell me everybody's alive and then tell me your story. Okay, you don't come to mama and start with a half an hour story. And I'm sitting there saying, who's bleeding? And who needs my help right now? So first and foremost, tell those people it's going to be okay. And this is why. So leading by example starts with your thoughts. And so when you start to panic, you need to be in private communication, a constant communication with God. You talk to him all day long. I do. The only way I've gotten through all these years and all of that before was doing that. And that's what led me to do what I do today. People ask me, okay, what are you? You're psychic? Do you do cards? What are your labels? What's your title? And I'm like, well, I do angels work because I work with the angels, and the angels work. God works through the angels, and they assist me, and I'm doing the same thing. So whatever it is, if it's healing, if it's answers, if it's hope, if it's counsel, that's what I do. And it's been quite an interesting ride, tell you what. But it started from that one backed in a corner. This is too big for me. I cannot fail place. And I said, God, I need you. I can't do this one on my own. And that's where we are. And so you got to really lean on your faith right now. You have to understand that if you're coming here, because I've told you so many things that have come true, God is real. Jesus is real. The archangels are real. And people are like, oh, you can't talk to angels. You can't talk to angels because they could be bad. Well, I'm sure there are some bad ones. We don't know the story, Not the ones I'm talking to. I'm talking to Michael and Gabriel. I mean, they're like God's right hand there. I mean, and never at any time over the years have they ever faltered. They have never said or did or led me in any direction that was negative at all. And I have seen some beautiful things, and I've seen people healed, and I've seen people come lifted out of the depths to move forward in a positive direction. And you can't convince me otherwise. You cannot convince me otherwise. I know. And if you're coming to listen to me, it's okay to know. It's okay to believe. So, as we move forward in this time, it's going to get really interesting. Just remember that you have been chosen, and there's, I don't know how many thousands or millions or whatever of people who are chosen to be those pillars of strength in what may seem to be chaos. Most of what we see right now is a back and forth struggle for your perception. And if the dark side was so powerful and strong, and they could just take us all over and do all that. Why would they need to influence us? Why would they need to do that? Why just kill us all off right now? Because right now we're all human, and those people, or those bad guys that are controlling those people inside, they cannot create. It's not about you, and it's not about the land, and it's not about power, and it's not about money. You know what it's really about for the dark side that's controlling these bad individuals? It's about hurting God. And they see God in you. So start to step into your role as God's children. Whatever the rules, whatever the religion, man created religion. And it's all an attempt to explain everything that you've ever heard about religion, about God, has come through man. He has spoken through the prophets. Well, I could call myself a prophet, but it seems egotistical. I really try to stay away from that. Big t-shirt says prophet. I don't want to do that. I don't care what my titles are, but I do care what the message is and how it helps people. And it's time to put a smile on your face and not give in to every perceived failure, because we're not failing. It's going to look like that. It's going to look like, oh my God, we're going to war. Oh my God, this is going to happen. Oh my God. You need to stand back, like a movie you've seen a bunch of times before, a scary movie, and everybody's like, oh my God, it's never going to get any better. Oh my God, what's going to happen? And just sit back with a smile on your face, like, I know what's going to happen. I know what's going to happen. It's going to be okay. And it is. I have asked many times. And it is. So we're just going through the motions right now. No, I told you so's. Because that really says a lot more about you than it does about them. Does to them. You don't have to. It's already done. And especially with your kids, you need to remain calm. I have learned this from raising kids. I've learned so much from raising kids. I have learned so much along the way, and I have so much more to learn. But I've had kids over to the house. We always had friends over. I always stay the night. Little girls running around screaming everywhere. And so sometimes I have a kid come over and they're just like so quiet and calm. And I'm like, they're not unhappy, but I'm like, how do you even do that? I must be doing something wrong. My kids are like high-pitched, laughing and talking and screaming 24/7. I just learned to tune it out. I'm just, I tune into the ow and the help me and all that, but, tune it out. And then I go take the kid home and I talk to the parents, and the parents talk very quietly and they're very calm. There's no yelling. There's no nothing. I'm like, oh, I see. And so then, opposite happened as well. Some kids just a terror, just ripping up my house, hitting everybody, and take them home, and the parents are fighting, and the dogs are barking, and everybody's running around screaming, and it's just like chaos. And that is their norm. That is what children are. Parrots. They will act in a way that everybody else around them is acting. So we need to balance out the emotions that are coming and be that calm. And within your mind and your thoughts, whenever you feel like, oh my God, nope. Everything's going to be okay. Thank you, God. Thank you, God, for protecting us all. Thank you, God, for the most powerful prayer is always a prayer of thanks, because you have accepted and fully believed that even before you ask, it is given. So thank you, God. I changed the way I pray a long time ago. And I started out with thank you, God, for this and thank you, God, for that. That's very powerful. And I had to change the way I think a long time ago because I found that, I used to be very passive, but I used to internalize everything and I'd have these scenarios running in my head. Well, if they say this, I'm going to say that, and blah, 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 blah. And it's just constant cycle of negativity, right? It's fictional. Nothing ever really happened. React to things when they happen and stop for a second and think before you do. What happens if? What happens if I just blow up at my husband because he said this, or my sister or my mother or whatever, and I just react and say, well, I'm never going to talk to you again. Is that worth it? Or could we react in a different way? Could we talk to ourselves first and say, they just don't understand? And say, okay, I love you. But if you ever find that anything that I've said makes sense to you and you want to talk about it, I'm here. And do that. And you just diffuse the entire situation. So I could go on and on and on and on and talk about that forever. But remember, what I'm trying to say is years ago, I used to have all these negative thoughts. I used to be like, oh my God, nothing's ever going to get any better. And how am I ever going to do this? And what's going to happen in, 10 years from now? And what if it's not going to be okay? And all these things. And I would just, in those moments, I would just talk to God. I would just say, you know what? I need you on this one. Will you carry us through this? And, in the listening, in your own voice, in your own head, is how it comes. And it's the next thought. Will you carry us through all of this? Yes, I will. Okay. In your prayers, will you always protect my children? Will you make sure they're okay, that they live and I live and we live together? And yes, I will. Of course. And so that's how you talk to God. And it's a lot of times it's like, God, where did I put my keys? Oh, they're on the kitchen table. Oh, okay, thank you. I think so you progress over time because you learn to listen more. And so this whole concept of this endless negative thought cycle that goes through your head, that influences your reactions. That influences your happiness. That creates your reality. So we have to start there, and we have to say, every time something negative pops into your head, you say, no, I'm not doing that anymore. And then you replace it with the opposite positive thought. It's not fantasy, it's creation. And it's faith, because you've already been told, and somewhere deep inside you, know that it is going to be okay. So right now, we need to step in to the roles that we have been training for and lead by example. Okay. So, Gentle. Okay. So I don't have a lot. I'm just going to give it to you. And, I'm supposed to trust and not say things like I could be wrong and, blah, blah, blah. I'm not supposed to say that anymore. That's my spiritual lesson right now, is to trust. So I'm just going to put it out there. I'm human. All right, so let's take a look at what I type it all down, because I do it like right before I go to sleep, and I type it all down and then I pass out. But so I've made screenshots of all this, so bear with me here. Okay, one more thought before we get into that. Who is it, do you think, that would want you to believe that your Father, your Creator, your true divine parents would not talk to you? Would you do that to your kids? Wouldn't that be considered cruel and cold? God is more loving than you could ever understand. You have never experienced that kind of love, except for when you're home. Who would want to do that? Who would want you to know that? Over time, and another thing we're going to happen is that you guys and me and everybody else is going to find some things out that we didn't even think were in the list there. The depth of the lies. Okay? And one thing that you need to trust along the way, is that God is not a lie. It's not a fantasy. He is the ultimate truth and the ultimate reality. And we are all housed within the body of God. And the first thing they taught me is to believe in infinite possibilities. And I said, and they said, because that is where we reside. Everything is endless. It is not limited. And man wants to put limits on God. The dark side wants to control you because you are housed within the body of God. And the more pieces they control, the more they can hurt God. It's really sick. Anyway, so, and they have, now don't get me wrong, I've asked, and I've people know this who listen to me. The truth is in the Bible. Okay? It's in there. But it has been altered. A little here, a little sentence there. And I truly believe, and one thing that's always bothered me, and this is, blasphemy, just hear me out here. Because what I know of Jesus and what I have seen over the last 20 years is an amount of compassion and love that just makes you cry. I mean, just can't even handle it. Just no, they don't care. If he said, never refrain from coming to me. I remember I went to church one time and I was a Catholic, and I'm like, well, I've been here in a long time, so I can't go to communion. And like, so I said, you kids go up there and I'll just sit here, because I didn't, didn't go to confession and all that. We were raised that way. And I'm like, crap, sinner, I'm just going to sit here. It's not their fault. They can go up. And I was talking to Jesus as people were walking up, and I wanted to go up there, and I said, do I really have to go to confession? I mean, can I just go up there? And he said, excuse me, he said, never refrain from coming to me. Never. And that's what the whole concept of forgiveness, I think that he did that, or John the Baptist was doing that, and then Jesus. But that is all about getting rid of the programming that tells you that you are not worthy to come to your true divine family. And the one thing that's always bothered me is, with different religions, is the exclusion of God's children. It's like, okay, well, what if somebody lived out in some village somewhere in the middle of nowhere, and they didn't have any concept of what we all know? And what if they were just living and being good to their people, and they had an idea of some loving creator, and they treat everybody well? Do they not get to go? Are they bad? No, they're God's children too. So what used to bother me is, no one comes to the Father but through me. Do you feel the energy in that? That's not what I feel when I talk to Jesus. When I look him in the face and we're doing healings on people, that is not what I feel. That is not what I heard that day when he said, never refrain from coming to me. I have had Jewish people and all different kinds of people come to me of different religions and ask Jesus for his help, take a look inside their body and see what's going on with them. And it comes out to be right. And he helped them too. And I said, I talked to Jesus. Is that okay? And they're like, yeah. He doesn't discriminate. So I think what was going on at the time is, he came to teach us how to live a better life, and to remind us to get back to the Father. Jesus talked to the Father. And I think instead what he said, because everyone at the time thought they were so low and they were so unworthy and they were peasants and they said, oh no, I could never be accepted because I'm this or that. I'm too dirty. And, I think what he said was, and it had been altered in the writings, I think what he said was, if you feel like you're not worthy to come to the Father, then come through me. That's Jesus. Then come through me. I will be your doorway. And they're like, okay, yeah, I could do that. And so do you see where the programming has been happening all this time? I mean, forever, to suit the needs of man. Remember that. And so it's kind of my job, and I've always felt this way, to get back down to the roots and the trunk of the tree. We have to understand that we are all God's children and that we are loved beyond measure. Unconditional. They tell you you're loved unconditionally, but if you do this and this and that, we're going to throw you in a fiery pit of hell. So it's like, what? And so we've all been confused the whole time. We've been confused the whole time. So nourish your relationship with God, your personal connection. I talk to God, I talk to Jesus, I talk to Archangel Michael and Archangel Gabriel, and I have never experienced so much compassion and love. And even when I come to them, like, oh my God, I screwed up in so many ways. I am so sorry. I am so, and they're like, no, I didn't. It's okay. I'm like, no, really, I really did it. So we got to get back. If you're going to peel away the layers of programming, you can't. The whole goal in that is to stand strong as a positive force of love and light for the rest of your family, which is humanity. So if you're just screaming from the rooftops and telling everybody, oh my God, all the tragic things and terrible things that are happening in the world, but you're not coming around and saying, but this is going to happen, but things are going to change, but you can change your ways. You can get closer to God. You can stop thinking these ways. If you're just screaming all the terrible horrors of the world, it's just adding to the fear. It's feeding the other side. So now we have to starve the other side, and we have to empower people to stand. Bunch of pillars of light. And that's what we need to be. All right, now I'm done with that. So I'm always going to do that, and I don't care. So, all right, let's get into the Gentel, and then we'll take a few questions. All right. So many screenshots. Okay. All right, so let's talk about the speech from yesterday. I'm going to be real careful here because I don't want them to take down my channel. Because I got a lot of good stuff recorded on this channel. I mean, I haven't. But, so I'm watching this thing, okay? And so I turn on the news for the first time in a long time, okay? And it's just like, I can't even handle it. I can't even handle the energy coming off these people. I'm like, all these people need to go to jail. I mean, they are purposely and knowingly just spewing out this misinformation. And before, a long time ago, when I used to watch the news, I was not, the network that starts with an F. It was that network. I used to think, well, maybe they don't know. Maybe they don't know. There's no way they don't know now. Those people chose money and fame over the needs of the people. And whatever happens to them, it should happen to them. Anyway, so I was all pissed off in the beginning. And then I'm waiting for the stupid speech to start. I'm like, this is going to hurt. This is going to be, I'm like, okay. I'm like, no, be positive. Just take a step back. Just be an observer. Just be an observer. And like the whole time, it's like listening to a demon talk, you know? And my perception of that entire scene was like, so all these reporters are feeding him what to say next. And he'd start to get off track. And then they'd say, like, oh, and then the best example, I just laughed because this one guy stood up towards the end and said, yes, but, and you can actually see him going like this when he's talking to him, to, the person at the podium. And he says, yes, but tell us, you haven't told us how it's going to be different this time. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so obvious. I mean, did anybody see that? Am I the only one? And it was just ridiculous. I mean, so, and then at one point he gets mad at a reporter, okay, a journalist. And there was a glitch when he was talking. He gets mad at the journalist, and then he's like, blah, 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 blah. And then it's like, okay. And it like cuts off to where he's got it together. And I'm like, what was that? And so, I could have gotten all mad and I could have gotten all upset. I did actually get a headache from watching that. But it turned into me, I'm like, no. And I just, your perspective on everything is important. Okay. So if you're watching something like that, you just have to read between the lines there, watch the behaviors. And most people just glaze over, listen to the words, and and a lot of people that don't want to believe anything is wrong because they've been through something and they've been through things in their personal life. And they're just like, no, I need to believe everything these people are saying because I can't handle anything else. It has to be right. And I think a lot of people that do believe, that's where they're coming from. There's a reason. And so the whole point, I was talking to God about it. The whole point of that thing was to shift public opinion back in his favor, to set up a narrative that should anything happen, they're the bad guys and they're trying to take over. And so that's what they're trying to do right now, is set up that narrative. And you heard it. Then they were asking about someone in a faraway country that starts with R, USSIA, and the leader, whose name starts with P. And the whole time in my mind when I'm thinking about this, I see that person smiling. So, let me look at my notes here. What God told me last night is the resident's speech today was an attempt to show competence, but failed. It was a conditioning the public to believe that the administration would be taken over by a rogue regime. A man in faraway land whose name starts with P does not lie, he said. That blew me right out of the water. Really? God said that to me. He does not lie. Okay. Neither does a certain individual whose name starts with T. I know people like that. I was raised by one. Brutally honest. I'm sure the man that starts with T is much nicer than who I was raised by. But they would rather hurt your feelings than lie. And God said that the certain person in a faraway land whose name starts with P is part of what you should refer to it as the World Alliance. Because I thought that was interesting, because I'm always saying, like, referring to, trying to sum it up. What should I call this whole thing when I talk to you, when I ask you about it, And she said, you should refer to it as the World Alliance. Really? Okay. There's only 2 countries that are not on board. I was having a hard time getting those countries, so I'm not going to quote them. Because when you start thinking about something, like somebody says, okay, what did Grandpa call me? What was my pet name? And then immediately a thought goes in your, oh, this is going to be hard. Then I can't get it. Then I can't hear it. So the man in the faraway land was instructed to make it appear that he is starting a war by the World Alliance. And the certain man who gave a speech yesterday will be removed for a critical mistake. I heard that happens next week. They are doing all of this to usher in the financial reset. That is the primary goal at this point in time. So it used to be they would start a war to do theirs, right? So now we're going to make it appear that that's happening to do ours. So don't freak out. That's what I'm saying, is don't freak out when you see things. Just be like, oh, this is good. This is good. So God really harped on the make it appear. He could make it appear, appearances, perception, things like that. He said that the reset is the most important. It dictates how. I said, why is that most important? Why would people be most important? Why wouldn't the policies and the leaders and all that be most important? He says, because this dictates to all countries, probably except those 2. I don't know how that works out. It dictates how people of each country should be treated and respected within that framework. Now, so they want to make it look like the man whose name starts with T and all of us are big bad guys who are trying to take over and steal the country. And if you really take a look at what was said yesterday, and what I only watched the news for a short period of time, but within that time I could see it. They're really pushing hard to set this narrative up. And that's another reason why he came out. And he slipped at one point and talked about what's coming. He slipped up a lot. Okay. The big light-colored dwelling over in the east is being reconstructed to be a museum of sorts. First, a command post, and then decommissioned to be a tourist attraction. Interesting. All right, so that is what, let's see, let's just 9 more screenshots. Oh, another thing, the press was completely leading him. If you go back and watch, you could see it. And they even had people stand up to seem like they were in opposition. But then the questions that came after them led him back around, to, you're going to say this, right? You're going to tell us this, right? It's just interesting. Just so stupid. I mean, it's so stupid. And the whole glitch thing, that was great. He starts to go off on somebody, and then his body actually went from here to here, and he's like, okay, and I'm like, is this recorded? It had to be. How do you do that? How do you do that on a live? Look into that. You guys look into that. All right. All right, so let's get into some questions. Let's go over here to the chat. Anybody have any questions? I got a little bit of time here. Oh my goodness, so many people here. I don't know. Just like I've just got this. I'm not getting the waves of. Now, trust me, the energies right now are crazy. Okay, everybody's dealing with anxiety. They're dealing with bad dreams. They're dealing with mood swings, and it's retrograde and stuff. But it's really is. It's us moving on the grand finale, the climax of this push back and forth. The dark side's really pushing back for whoever's left to take hold of the people. Okay, energetically that is happening right now, and that's why you're feeling weird or you're having bad days and all that. All right, so all right, let's get back here. Let me scroll back. Did you get any questions yet? Or Stephen, Katie, Christine, Wanda, Karen, Diana, Christine again, Deborah, Sandy, Michael, Connie, James, Lori. So many. Joanne, Aaron, Tamu, Mike. Okay, so many names. Hi, everyone. So thank you so much for being here. Okay, let's get some questions going. Go ahead and re-ask. If you asked before, then I'll go down to the bottom. It does take a minute if you're coming off of a Facebook page or something like that. It takes a minute to get to my stream here. I'm trying to figure out how to add Rumble to my stream so that I can have this here, because I don't want to lose my shows. And then I'll upload all the old shows on there too. I don't really do the whole world scene on the Fallawsophy show. It's supposed to be all about spiritual and things like that. But I'm going to do it this way. So I'm going to get taken down. You know how I tell a little story? It's so stupid. God. All right, let's get up here. Really? Carissa says that I've heard some people's paychecks aren't having taxes being taken out. Is this true? That would be. Okay. So I always said, just like above all instinctively, I always said, you know what? They got to get this whole thing done. So if this and that is true, and these executive orders, and he really never had any power, and blah, 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 then his taxes aren't legitimate. And so we're running off the old tax plan, right? From the previous administration. And if that is true, and his taxes, didn't they take effect this year? I always said they got to get it done before the end of January, because that's when everybody gets their W-2s, and they're going to start doing their taxes, and they can't, and everybody's going to know. They can't pay what they think they're supposed to pay if it's not legitimate. So that's why I always thought it had to be done by the end of January. And then we have, wonderful people coming out with their intel, somebody whose name starts with the PHIL. And he's like, yeah, it's going to be done by the end of January. That was the plan. I'm like, well, that's what I thought. Are they taking taxes out? Well, at this point in time, I don't know if that's accurate, because I do believe they are still taking taxes out. It would depend on the company and who's in the know. Okay. Because I know my husband's getting taxes taken out of his. And they do it on the company level. Then they send the taxes off to the government. So if they're getting it back, then I guess there would be some kind of refund back to you, or that's done. I don't know how that works. I'm not a tax person. I shouldn't think too much about this. All right. Heard on another channel, Trump is sick. What are your thoughts? Can you ask, please? No. He's not sick. Possibly hiding for certain reasons. Not that he would hide, but, protection. They're all trying to kill him right now. I don't know what to tell you. And we want to make sure that he is safe. Christine, is the pain on the left side of my head from a tooth or my ear? I'm going to have to look at you. Okay. So right here, right in there, sinus. Okay, it's sinus. It goes back into your ear. You've got quite a bit of congestion in your ear. It could progress to progressing to a sinus infection, not so much an ear infection. I don't really see a lot of fluid in there. So what I would do is go and get yourself some natural antibiotics. Oregano oil is great. I'm not going to tell you what to take. Just a suggestion. Disclaimer. I actually have antibiotics in the house. I always have. My family always has. I'm not going to tell you how. But so we keep it on hand for stuff like that. But yeah, it's so right here, your sinuses are really close to your teeth. And if you get back towards the ear, and the ear is stuffed up too, you can feel it down here. So you get deferred pain. Yeah. All right. I had that thought. Leslie was saying CGI is never live. I asked, what's the deal with the guy at the podium? What is that? Is that, and he said AI. You guys do with that. I am not educated in all of that. The whole idea of all that kind of stuff. And in the beginning, I was like, no, come on. No. Now I'm starting to think. I have gotten some information that, well, okay, I was wrong. I was wrong. They do have those things. They do have all kinds of things going on. Okay. God said AI. So you guys figure that out. Let's see. You're welcome to everyone who's saying thank you. That's so nice. When should I apply for my Social Security benefits? With something like that, as soon as possible. Always as soon as possible. Oski, will I get a grant for my home when I go to the meeting? Can I put this? I could probably put this. Yeah, I can put it up there. All right. That's a yes and a no. A yes if you want to jump through a lot of hoops and pay a lot of money. I feel like they want too much from you. So this is really going to be a decision of yours, whether I want to do that. I think you're going to find that it's a little more than you anticipated. All right. Well, at some point in time, you're going to have to make the decision, because if you let it go too long, the death is going to be bad. I don't think you have to do it right now, but you're probably going to have to make that decision at some point in time. We can always try healing, but with an animal that's very old, or usually just an animal that's very old, there's only so much you can do. There's only how long they can stay. Oh, no. Great. Isn't that prednisone um, steroids? Great. Mike's on steroids again. I'm sorry, Mike. I'm sorry you went to the urgent care for your ears. I hope you're feeling better. Um, let's see what else we got here. This was incredible. I almost started screaming because I have heard over and over recently that I would know when I needed to know what my role would. Oh, I get it. Good. You know, it's funny how messages come out. When there's a message to humanity from God, you'll hear it all over the place. You'll hear it through, because not everybody's going to respond to me. Not everybody's all, into, well, I wish they were. They should be. But a lot of people like zone out when you start talking about God and everything. They're not going to connect with me. They may connect with somebody else. There's another philosophy or whatever. But the message will go out here and there. Like, look at the message about raising your vibration. That has been going out for a very long time in every different corner of the earth. Why? Because it's very important. Because this was coming. So, sometimes, here's another way. When you're talking to God personally and you want to get information and you feel like you can't get it from yourself, and you say, will you speak to me through others? Will you send me what I need to know through others? I mean, I have had my kids walk up to me, like that one story. I don't know if I have enough time. That's the greatest story. Your loved ones who have passed, God, the angels, they will look for opportunities. They will play a song for you that means something. They will put something in your past, something to come on this TV screen. Somebody just happened to say something to you that is the exact right thing at the exact right time. And sometimes it's so random that you're like, oh my gosh. So you have to start noticing when that happens. Like, just for example, when it was time to take my ring off, and the kids were 4 and 7 still, had a couple months had passed since my husband's death, and I went upstairs. My room, the way our house was set up, we're in North Idaho, was like 4 different levels. Okay, and so the master bedroom and bathroom and a little walkway to that go up from the living room about 6 stairs up, and then goes down to the kids' rooms and down to the basement. So the kids were in the living room sitting on the floor watching TV. This is before a lot of technology and all that crap. So when they're watching TV, I mean, a bomb could go off. They have no idea what's going on. It's just totally focused on that TV. And my daughter Faith was 7, and so I went in the room. I was by myself. I closed the door. I sat on the bed. Wasn't crying. Nothing. Wasn't talking out loud. And I just thought, I said, okay. I had been wearing all the jewelry that he gave me, and a stone would fall out of each one, and I had to keep putting it away. And I'm like, okay, this wedding ring, I got to take it off. I don't want the stone to fall out, because he was telling me to let go. That's what he's telling me. And so I went. So I'm sitting on the bed. And I'm like, this is hard. I want to save this wedding ring for the kids someday, and do something with it. And so I took it off. And I put it back on, and I took it off, and I put it back on, and I'm like, okay, this is stupid. So I take it off, and I walk across the room and put it in the jewelry box, and I go and sit down on the bed. And in my mind, I was talking to my husband who had passed, and I said, I wonder if you are wearing your ring. I mean, I have it, but like some kind of replica. I wonder if you're wearing your ring in heaven. And I just sat there quiet. About 30 seconds later, there's a knock, or maybe a minute later, there's a knock at the door. And I open the door, and it's Faith. She's 7. And she's got this, she's the one who always saw him for about 6 months after he passed away. And she's got this look on her face. And I knew the look. And every time she saw him, she had the look. And it wasn't fear. It was surprise. It was just this look, And I said, what? And she goes, I just saw Daddy. And I said, And every time she said that, I would say, oh, okay, honey, he's just telling you he's still with you and he loves you and all that. And I said, tell me what happened. And she goes, well, I was watching TV and I felt something on my shoulder. She looks down at her right shoulder and says, so that makes, and she goes, and so she goes, and I turned around and I saw a hand. And I looked up and it was Daddy and he smiled at me. I said, okay. Oh, okay. I said, see, he just loves you and he's just telling you he's still with you, baby. And, everything will be, she's like, okay. And then, so there's a landing there, about 5-foot landing. You walk before you go down the stairs. So she starts to walk away and I'm still standing at the door. And she just turns around and she looks at me and she goes, oh, and Mommy? I said, yeah. He still has his ring on. And I went, okay. And I closed the door and lost it. I'm like, there's no way. There's no way. If anybody had any question ever that they live on and they hear our thoughts and they talk to us, it's right there. I can't make it up better than that. Through the mouths of babes, I didn't say anything. She didn't know what I was doing. I didn't say anything to her about it. She said it was her right shoulder. It would have been his left hand on her right shoulder. She would have looked down, saw the ring. You can't deny that. They will speak through those around you. And when you're praying, you need to ask God, through this time, please send reassurance. Please send confirmation. Please help me know that everything's going to be okay. Please talk to those around me. Lead me to the answers. And he will. That's a good story. That's one of the best. I can't even, there's no way. When you're looking for confirmation, do they hear me? Are they here? Do they know? Does God hear me? Does everybody hear me? Or is it just all in my head? It don't get better than that. All right. So let's, thanks for being on today. Oh, let's see this one. What's that? Oh, Bank of America. Yeah. That's a big web. They're in trouble. They have been manipulating things in their favor. Illegal banking practices. That's sad. And they're going to get a whole lot of trouble. And they're going to go out. They're going to go bankrupt. February? That's all I get on that right now. Let's see. Old Jennifer, can I do an overall life reading along with a past life session, or best to do separate? Well, if you want, what I have over there on the website, if you're like, well, I want a mediumship reading, but I also want, a medical intuitive reading. But I've also like this and I'd like that. And so if you got a lot of stuff you want to do, just get the 2 hour and we'll do everything. I don't do the healing on the phone. I do that in meditation. Yeah, you go to jenniferfallaw.com. There is a 2 hour there. If you think 1 hour covered, it's up to you. But a lot of people will say, well, I got the 2 hour because I couldn't choose between this and that. Is that okay? Yeah, it's okay. As long as we have enough time to do it. You know why? Because I do what I want. And I don't work for anybody else and nobody tells me what to do. So, and that's what I like. So I do what, yeah, of course we can. Anytime, you guys just email me. If you're saying, hey, I really need this and I need that, or I need a house cleanse and a healing and I need a reading, can you cut me a deal? Yes, I will. I always do. Okay. Well, I think that's all I really have for today. In minutes or so, 25 minutes or so, be sure to tune in to Real News Live on Rumble. We would like you all to start going to Rumble. That is the show that I am on with Mike Bera, 2 to 3 times a week, depending on our schedules. I will be on that show tomorrow, Friday, the 21st. And, I'll go talk to God again tonight, tell you anything I get. I'm going to start doing philosophy more. I'm not going to promise on specific times and specific days because the ways people schedule readings and the other shows and things, sometimes it just doesn't work out to do that. So when I have stuff to give, I might get on here. When I want to talk and not be interrupted, Mike Bera, I'll get on here. I mess with him constantly, so he knows it's not a big deal. All right, guys, I want to thank everybody so much for coming, for listening. Go ahead and share this. I don't think it's going to get anybody banned. I don't think there's anything about it. If you feel like there's something positive or helpful for somebody in it, go ahead and share it around. And I hope you have a lovely day, and stay faithful, stay strong, and lead by example.